Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. The Ethereum ETF is now live and trading, and we've seen over $1 billion worth of new trade volume enter the market. As we're seeing the market pull back, this is due because of Grayscale liquidating over $300 million worth of their position. But the thing is, this is exactly what happened all the way back 6 months ago when Bitcoin's ETF first started trading. Bitcoin pulled back 20%. This is very similar to what we're seeing today, and I'm going to be breaking down why I believe that the bottom is in, why this is the end of our correction before we start that next big breakout into price discovery, and how the charts are lining up perfectly that this is going to be the most bullish cycle that we've ever been a part of. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And if you guys do find any value in this video, please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to see anything I'm investing in long term, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty everybody, here we are to start off today's video, and we have a great one to be mapping out because we finally have the approval and Ethereum's ETF is now trading. We have seen a lot of new volume coming in here. In the first day, we've already surpassed $1 billion. We're going to be talking about what this means moving forward. We're also going to be mapping out the price action of Bitcoin. We're also going to be talking about the Ethereum PA. The good news of all of this sell-off is when we saw Bitcoin's ETF get approved, we saw Bitcoin pull back, and then that was right before we went into a massive new high. We're going to be talking about what this pullback means for Ethereum and why I think that this is ultimately a good buying opportunity before we get that next big breakout. We're going to be talking about the total market cap 1 and 2, and then finishing up by mapping out the Bitcoin M1 money supply and Ethereum against the M1 money supply, because I think that these charts perfectly line up with what we're seeing around these ETF approvals and why I really believe that these ETFs are going to fuel so much more adoption going over this cycle. Guys, if at any point you find any value in this video, please do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you do want to see anything I'm investing in long term, links are in the description. Go ahead and sign up on my website. For those that have been asking where I've been at, I actually had a hernia, so I am in the process of getting that fixed. I've been seeing doctors for the last couple days. You know, I actually have that planned for surgery on the 8th of next month, so I might miss a little bit of time around there, but I'm doing good. It's not anything life-threatening. It's really mild as is. It's almost one of the most mild examples that you can have, so I'm not really too worried about it. You guys shouldn't either, but that's actually where I've been at just recently. Now guys, as we're jumping into this video, Ethereum ETFs approved by the SEC, bringing popular funds to the second largest cryptocurrency. This was actually a couple days ago, and as we're getting into a more recent article, the spot Ethereum ETFs post $113 million worth of outflows on the second day. The newborn 8 ETFs didn't manage to outrun the $327 million worth of outflows from Grayscale's recently converted Ethereum trust. So what we've seen is, as a number of these different institutions have actually added support for their ETFs, we've seen a number of these actually having inflows, positive inflows of new buyers entering the market. In the first day, we topped over $1 billion worth of trade volume. However, the issue is Grayscale has actually liquidated $327 million worth of their Ethereum holdings. So what we ended up seeing was the price action of Ethereum pulled back, even though we had this approval, even though we've seen all of this new money. But I want you guys to be aware of the fact that even though this is pulling back, Bitcoin saw the exact same thing happen when its ETF went live. We can see the ETF went live for Bitcoin right here. Bitcoin pulled back about 20% before we ended up bottoming. About 21.5% before we bottomed. But the big thing to be aware of is this is what happened shortly after we ended up bottoming and reversing out of that. So what we noticed is the Ethereum ETF and the Bitcoin ETF both followed a similar event where once that approval went live, once it started trading, Grayscale liquidated a number of their Bitcoin or Ethereum holdings, and they used that kind of as new liquidity to exit some of their position. It's nothing to be scared of because of the fact they're still holding the vast majority of their position. They wanted to just use that opportunity as a time to take a little bit of profit and use that as that new liquidity entered the market, because we've seen a number of new institutions add support for the Ethereum ETF. We saw the same thing happen with Bitcoin, and now I think that this is going to be the time where we're most likely going to start reversing from here. If we're coming over here and taking a look at Bitcoin, we're going to go to a daily time frame, and we're just going to see that Bitcoin is actually retesting this prior lower high, and we've bounced significantly from that point. All Bitcoin did ever since we capitulated all the way back down here at the beginning of July, we saw this big run all the way back up near those range highs. And all this pullback was a retest of some of these prior resistance levels as new support. So I do think that Bitcoin will ultimately reverse from this level, and we'll be starting the next run all the way back up to the top of these range highs and prior all-time highs of this consolidation. Coming over here and taking a look at Ethereum, we're really just following a lot of the same events. Keep in mind, guys, that once the Bitcoin ETF started trading, Grayscale went and liquidated a number of their Bitcoin holdings. The same thing happened with Ethereum today. We saw Grayscale rush to liquidate, use some of that new liquidity entering the market as a way to take profit, and then we ended up seeing Ethereum pulling back right down in here. But oftentimes I tell you guys that we can analyze the total market cap chart, and it's going to give us a better idea versus the dollar pairs, because sometimes Bitcoin, sometimes Ethereum, and many of these other dollar pairs, they can see fundamental drivers of stimulus, both positive and negative, and during those times we might not have as good of price action to be pulling from. It might not look as symmetrical versus when we come over here and actually look at the total market cap, they do show a deeper perspective, or a much better conclusion, I should say. Now, when we're looking at the total market cap, the thing I want you guys to be aware of is the total market cap was more or less flirting with this main level. We had been consolidating on it for a couple months, about 3 months, before we ultimately saw one final capitulation below it. And so all we've ever really done from that capitulation was make a run all the way back up near those range highs. And all this pullback is us reclaiming that prior resistance level as new support. And so I do think that Bitcoin and the Ethereum markets, and not only those two, but the rest of the altcoin market as a whole, will ultimately look at this as a retest before we start that next leg up. And that's the most important thing to be considering here. When we take the time to just zoom in, all this really is doing is retesting some of these prior resistance levels as new support. And we can see that right here. The altcoins were holding below this resistance before that final capitulation. And then for us to be breaking back above that and then just reclaiming that, this is an opportunity for buying. I really think that anybody that's taking the time to actually accumulate crypto right now will be happy with their decision, because once this thing reverses, we're going to be looking at this thing making a run all the way back up to these range highs. My guess, if I had to pick an exact level, keep in mind that this is the total altcoin market cap, we're going to be looking at a run all the way back up here to 2.6 trillion. And then from there, don't be surprised if we saw another pullback. But once we can get back above this 2.6 trillion, that's where I'm anticipating a much bigger breakout in a price discovery. And that's really where we're going to finally start that big move where Bitcoin's into new all-time highs. And not only Bitcoin, but Ethereum and the rest of the altcoins are starting their big pushes as well. Because it's always in that first breakout, once the altcoin market, once the Bitcoin market has gone into price discovery, that we see the rest of the profit rotate back into the other altcoins out there. And I do firmly believe that's what's going to be happening once more into this cycle. We can come over and also take a look here at the total market cap of altcoins. This was the total market cap. This is going to be the total market cap of altcoins. And they're really in the similar point in their price structure. Realistically, the altcoin total market cap is pulling back here a little bit lower, but we're still flush with this main support that we need to be holding. Keep in mind that we're on a weekly time frame, so as long as we're consolidating and holding above this $1 billion level, or trillion dollar I should say, I do believe that we're going to be starting that next push back up to these range highs. The difference is the altcoins kind of rejected at the top of their lower high from the beginning of that bear market, whereas the total market cap was always kind of consolidating back above that. So with us now reclaiming the top of that lower high, pulling back and reclaiming some of these prior resistance levels, I don't really find it likely that we're going to be going any lower. This to me is just an opportunity to get in higher highs and higher lows before we ultimately make the next higher high into price discovery. So the total market cap for altcoins is in a similar point. Obviously, it's pulling back a little bit harder with Ethereum seeing such a big pullback around these outflows coming from the Grayscale trust, but I don't think that that's something to be too worried about, considering it's the exact same thing that happened with Bitcoin once the Bitcoin ETF started trading too. Coming over here, the most important charts I wanted to be talking about today are going to be Bitcoin's M1 money supply and then Ethereum against the M1 money supply, because this is something I haven't talked about with Ethereum, but we have mapped out this price action with Bitcoin. And I really think that these ETFs are going to be a big driver of value, because keep in mind, guys, that when we're looking at this, we have a number of these different Ethereum ETFs. And keep in mind that we're going to have Solana getting the same approvals, and we're most likely going to have a number of other crypto assets following the same sort of events, where they get the adoption, they get the approval, where they get the okay from the government, they get the actual approval to go live in trading, and then we're going to see all of the new inflows coming in. So I do think that that's something to be aware of. However, I'm anticipating that the Solana ETF, and I'm anticipating that some of the other ETFs coming in aren't going to have the same level of outflows that Bitcoin and Ethereum did. I think that Grayscale has been accumulating Bitcoin and Ethereum for an extensive period of time, and they haven't really focused on any other assets besides those. Yes, Grayscale does have investments into some of the other cryptos. Yes, they have been accumulating other altcoins, but not nearly to the extent that we saw with Ethereum and Bitcoin. So I'm not anticipating quite as many outflows with the new ETFs that will get approved, but we got to keep in mind, guys, that there's a number of these different institutions that have actually approved this and do have an ETF trading. So all of these customers are going to have a way to actually buy crypto this cycle legally through all of their main different brokerage accounts. That to me is very bullish and an optimistic sign. And when we're taking the time to look at the M1 money supply, the M1 money supply just represents all money that can be easily converted into cash that can go into risk markets. So when we're talking about this, anytime the Bitcoin is outperforming the M1, it shows that there is money to go around that retail can easily convert into cash. And if Bitcoin is outperforming the M1 money supply, it shows that people are going to be converting that cash into assets that are a little bit more risky, like a Bitcoin, like an Ethereum, or maybe even just some of the stock market. It's all universal, and this is something that we've seen dating all the way back into 2017, where we made that new all-time high, and we were outperforming the M1 money supply the entire way back up. This is something that just hasn't happened since 2017. If we come and draw a line at our prior all-time high, we can see that we still haven't even maintained a new all-time high. We peaked at 14K in the last cycle, and we ended up actually making a lower high there. When we topped at 65 and 69K, we were pretty much at that same resistance level. And all we've been doing is accumulating and making this longer term type of pattern before we make that big breakout. Now, guys, this in and of itself is a massive reversal pattern, an inverse head and shoulder, where once you break out at the neckline, that confirms the reversal. And as you guys can see, we've been consolidating right on support of that breakout on top of that neckline for the last 4 months. And so I do think that this confirms that we are going to be going higher. And the next move coming is going to be a retest of those prior all-time highs, basically a 0.09. Once we flip that, I really do anticipate the bulk of our price discovery for Bitcoin taking place in that move. And the most important thing that we can consider here is the fact that Ethereum is also on the verge of a breakout of the same exact pattern. However, the chart of Ethereum looks more bullish. We have very clear Elliott wave structure all the way back up here, 5 waves up, followed by an ABC correction back down. That would have been there. And so when we're looking at Ethereum has a much bigger impulse coming. And I really think that these ETFs are going to fuel so much more price discovery, because now the charts are reflecting that people have more money that they can convert into cash, that they can go and actually speculate on these type of investments, whether it's ETH, whether it's Bitcoin, or even the stock market. It doesn't so much matter. When we're seeing that these charts are going to be breaking out against the M1 money supply, it shows that there's going to be a lot more retail involvement than ever before. And I really think that all of this is reflecting of this pattern. We can see that with us having this big impulse from our last cycle was only a wave 1. And we're getting ready for a wave 3. I really do think that Ethereum is going to be making a much bigger move into price discovery than many people expect. Obviously our next bear market will be inside of this wave 4, but we're looking at Ethereum having a much bigger move in comparison to Bitcoin. Bitcoin, yes, it's had this long-term consolidation pattern, but Bitcoin's kind of already been around for a long time. I'm anticipating that this cycle is going to be a lot more dominated by altcoins because of the fact we're going to see a lot more of that retail money consolidating into the altcoin markets like they've always done. In our last cycle, we didn't have the retail involvement, and we can see that indicated by the M1 resistance. We made a lower high at all of our peaks, whether it was 14K, 65K, or 69K. Each one of these peaks ended up peaking at the same resistance level. However, when we're taking a look at Ethereum almost managed to come all the way back up into a new all-time high. However, we still didn't do that. At the top when Ethereum was peaking at around 4,000, that was still a lower high from the peak of 2018. And when we peaked over here at like 4,500, that was also a lower high versus our peak that we saw at 2018 or 2017, depending on how you're looking at that. But when we're taking the time to zoom out here, we are getting closer and closer to the point of us breaking out of that resistance. I don't think that we're going to be dropping lower as it stands right now. I think that we are about to make that big push. And the next push is going to be in price discovery for Ethereum against the M1, in the same way that it's going to be into price discovery for Bitcoin against the M1. When we take the time to zoom out, all of our charts, our major indices, are sitting on top of major support. They have reclaimed prior resistance levels, and they are now sitting on them as support, giving everybody an opportunity to jump back into new positions, accumulate some of these rock bottom discounts that we're seeing, because there's a number of altcoins sitting on major support levels, looking very bullish. Some of my favorites I've talked about on this channel are looking really good right now. And when we're looking at every one of our indexes, they're also kind of lining up with this just being a retest before we start that next big breakout. So guys, once again, even though we're seeing a pullback in Ethereum, even though Grayscale has liquidated some of their holdings, remember that Bitcoin saw the exact same thing take place over in here. When that ETF went live, we saw a 21% pullback. And in my opinion, the pullback that we're going to be seeing right here is already over, and this is where we kind of want to be getting into the position. So I wanted to give you guys this update. I know I've missed a few days. I have been out, down and out, and in pain. Not really, but I have been out, had the hernia, and so that's all kind of squared away. Expecting that, sometime around the 8th of next month, I will have a few days missing, maybe 5 days off. I don't know exactly how bad the surgery is going to be. I just have to play it by ear. However, guys, I wanted to give you the update because now we're seeing so much new development. The ETFs have finally started trading. That was something that we've been waiting for, wondering when that was actually going to go live. And now with that, we have an opportunity to jump into new positions. So I wanted to make sure that you were aware that I am bullish. I do firmly believe that we're going to be reversing off of this level. And now comes the time where we're really going to be excited to see Bitcoin breaking out, Ethereum breaking out, all of these heading into price discovery and making our first true big alt season of this cycle. So guys, if you did find value in this video, please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. If you do want to see anything I'm investing in, buying anything inside of this dip, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And I'm looking forward to the next move because I got a lot of confidence that it's going to be a big one. Thank you so much for tuning in. And with that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. As always, peace out.